What up, everybody? It's called Nerdy Core, back again with another video. And this one's going to be my top 10 PS4 games so far that I've played. So the PS4 has been a console that's been out for, I think it's 4 or 5 years now. I got mine day one, so a lot of my games are from earlier in the cycle, but I still keep up with buying games for it pretty frequently. Not as frequently as like the PS3 for me personally, but I still keep up with it. This video will obviously be made out of the games that I've played. So if you check on my channel, there will be a PS4 collection video. It'll be out of those games, so no games that I haven't played yet. So a lot of like the God of Wars, the Uncharted and stuff like that I haven't played yet on the PS4. So those games that most likely would have been in the list are most likely because I haven't played them yet. So if you want to see like what this is encompassing, you just watch the collection video, and then that will show you what it is. So first up we got is one of the PlayStation exclusives on this list, and that is Everybody's Golf. If you've watched any of my videos before, I always talk about how big of a fan I am of the Hot Shots series. This is just the latest rendition of the Hot Shots franchise. They basically took the Japanese title, which is Everybody's Golf. The American one used to be Hot Shots Golf, so they just went with Everybody's Golf, I guess, for the franchise going forward. So this plays exactly like any other Hot Shots game. There's a bar, you press X, you go for your power, so you can adjust your power based on when you press X, and then you go back, and then there's like a small bar that will show you the correct time to hit your ball to get the best accuracy. And the thing I like about these games is while they're arcadey and they're easier to learn than like say the Tiger Woods like PGA or whatever, they're still difficult. So they're easy to play but hard to master, which are games that I like, because I don't like games that just are too easy and too arcadey to the point where it's just no challenge type thing. The thing that makes this number 10 and not higher on my list is that I prefer the actual Vita version better than this one. The thing that the Vita version does better is there's a lot of different shot selections. So this one, there's only the standard shot selection, which is the bar underneath. In the Vita, you can have like a circle that closes in. There's like almost like a turbo bar, so it's like a circular bar type thing. There's a couple different shots, and well, the custom characters, as you see, I tried to make my guy look kind of like me at least, are cool. I prefer when they were just the characters that they already have pre-made in, because I feel like it gives more like style and creativity to all the characters, and like they all play differently, and it gave you more options to like level up different characters and stuff like that. So the next one is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Now this I know is on the PS3, but I only picked it up for the PS4. I picked this one up at launch of the PS4. I bought this Battlefield and Killzone Shadowfall. This game, in my opinion, is the best out of the Assassin's Creeds that I've played. I've played up to Unity, so that would be the last one I played. But the reason why I like this one so much is, one, the story is really good. It focuses on pirates, and they added ship combat into the game. Well, it was in Rogue, which was the game before it, but it was redefined and was done way better in this game. Also, the main thing that separates this game from a lot of other Assassin's Creed games is that it still has the multiplayer. The multiplayer was a big factor for me when playing this game. I used to play this all the time. When it first came out, for like the first 2 months, I was in the top 100 leaderboards, because this was basically all I was playing. It's kind of like a hide and seek style of game with different abilities, and like assassin, you get points for being more stealthy with your kills and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun, and it was still PvP, unlike Unity where they try to make it a PvE type scenario. So basically, besides that, it basically runs like a normal Assassin's Creed game. You have your main character, who is in this one Edward Kenway. He's pretty sure he's a pirate, but he's like a trying to become a legitimate pirate type thing. And you follow his story. You run into like Blackbeard and a few other like classic pirate characters type thing. Overall, it's good. I would definitely recommend it if you were to looking into the Assassin's Creed game and you didn't know which one to get. I would definitely recommend Black Flag out of all the ones I've played. There's still like the normal escort missions, stealth around missions, eavesdrop missions, and then your normal assassination missions. So other than the multiplayer and boat mechanics, it's basically just a normal Assassin's Creed game. So next is Fallout 4. This is a game I'm sure a lot of people would say would be higher on most of their lists. It still makes my top 10, but it's definitely not in like the top 5 realm. The reason for that is they dumbed down a lot of the mechanics, the RPG mechanics that were in New Vegas and Fallout 3, such as the dialogue system, the perk system, and the combat system. The combat system is better in this game in terms of how it plays. You can be kind of like the jack of all. If it suffers from the same thing Skyrim does, where you can be a jack of all trades, so there's no reason to go back and there's no replayability in the game. But this game is really fun. The quests are still good. They weren't as good as like a New Vegas. I still think New Vegas is the peak of the Fallout franchise. I've never played the like original top-down RPGs though, so I can't say anything on that. But this game's really good. Combat's smooth. The storyline's still pretty good. My favorite parts are the side missions, like doing the railroad, the Minutemen, or any of the miscellaneous, like the kid you find in the fridge type thing. All those miscellaneous quests are what, in my opinion, are the most interesting. The main story kind of falls flat for me. So the main RPG mechanics are still there, where you buy perks and you have what they call your special system, and each of them have a skill tree assigned to them. So like one of them is charisma, for example, and charisma, the higher your charisma is, the more skills you can get that fall under the charisma category. So you could like get one like lady killer. So if you're a male character, you have different dialogue options with females, and you do more damage to females, kind of like that. In my opinion, the thing that still makes this a great game is the DLC. The Far Harbor DLC is probably one of my favorite DLCs in any Fallout game. I think it really kind of goes back to the New Vegas and 3 feeling for me, where the story was really good in Far Harbor, the environments were cool, the enemies were cool, like all of it. It felt more like how Fallout 4 should have been. In my opinion, that's what holds this game up. Alright, next up is Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Now, this is a really good game, and it's a continuation of the Deus Ex series, which I think has 3 or 4 games. I know there's at least one on the PC and older. I think there's 2 on the PC. There's Human Revelations on the PS3, and then this is the one on the PS4. In my opinion, this falls just short of the PS3 one, which is the only other one I've played in the series. So it basically follows the same mechanics as Human Revelations. If you play that one, you know the mechanics of this game. It's a stealth game that gives you the option to also play as an action game. So the tier system in this one really affects how your playstyle is, which I like personally. So the tier systems, there's like stealth ones, there's hacking and more objective based ones. There's your speech categories. There's your armor, health, and weapon masteries and upgrading. If you were going for a more gung-ho build type thing. And my favorite thing about the Deus Ex franchise as a whole is the options you have for a quest. So one quest can be completed in so many different ways, and the pathing systems and the level up mechanics, like for example, one of the abilities you get in this is to be able to jump high or move heavy objects. So certain paths that if you didn't have that ability, you would have to take a different, maybe harder path to complete an objective, while if you leveled up those trees, you were able to see that area and explore that area, and usually they lead to easier or cooler ways to complete a quest. Also, the story in this game is really good. This is the one point I think it falls shorter than Human Revelations, is that I think Human Revelations' story is a lot better and deeper. This one's still good, and it ties in a lot to Revelations, so that's good. It keeps the story fresh, and you find yourself making connections a lot to the PS3 game, which I thought was cool. So overall, this is a great game, and I would definitely recommend it. Alright, next up is another PlayStation exclusive, and this is a Ratchet Clank. So this is a remake of the first game, done in the way of there was a movie released, so it kind of coincides with how the movie adaptation was. In my opinion, this is better than the first game. The first game, I think, was amazing. Ratchet & Clank's always been a great series, but I think this one smooths out the combat, smooths out the gameplay, and just makes it all feel and look a lot nicer. It's the same game, basically, just they kind of redefined and mastered the combat and aesthetics of the game. So for those of you who don't know, Ratchet & Clank is a third-person, I would say action platformer style of game, where it relies a lot on third-person gunplay and with certain gadgets. Like one, for example, summons these like bots that can go and explode on people, or some of them you have like a grenade glove that launches grenades. You have your wrench, which is your melee attack that you can throw type thing, and these are all upgradable, which is my favorite part of the game. Upgrading your guns and seeing all the different trees and abilities that you can get for the guns. In this one, they actually amped that up by adding like a complete tree for the guns and allowing you to fully upgrade it even more, so there's more upgrading to do in the game. And also, if you're looking for a platinum, this is a very easy platinum if you're into that type of thing. So in my opinion, this is, again, better than the first one. It's the same game, but I think they just enhanced it a lot, and I would definitely recommend picking this up. Alright, so the next game is Doom. Now, Doom is one that I've never played any of the others in the series, and the reason I decided to give this one a try is that I played the Wolfenstein game, the first one that came out. I think it was New Order or something like that, and that game was really good, and the combat was amazing in the game, so a lot of people said you should try Doom, and it's made by the same people. It's made by Bethesda. So I was expecting some of the same combat and gunplay that was in Wolfenstein, and I was right. Like, the combat on this is amazing. I think for a shooter, it's one of at least top 5 in controls and how the gunplay actually feels, like all time. The gunplay is really fast paced. It feels good. There's weight to your gun. You feel like you're actually, like, when you shoot somebody, you feel like you're actually, like, there's impact and it like has meaning type thing, and it's not too overpowered to where you feel like Call of Duty, where you're just like cutting down people with like, you cut down like paper dummies or whatever. So this one, the story is not really like much of a story. It's just kind of like demons come, you kill the demons type thing. It was just kind of setting it up. This is all about the gameplay. The story was just there to set it up, the gameplay, and it does it well enough that it keeps you interested in terms of playing through the whole game. Basically, the combat alone carries this game, and also the multiplayer is another asset to the game. It's kind of like a Unreal Tournament, Destiny cross type thing, where you get the abilities and powers like in Destiny, and it's kind of like the old school shooter feeling of like an Unreal Tournament. So overall, this game's amazing. I would definitely pick it up. It's definitely a mature game, so if you're not, it definitely earns its mature tag with all the gore and stuff like that. So if you're not into that and heavy metal and stuff like that, that would be a reason not to pick it up. But otherwise than that, I don't see a reason not to own this game. Alright, so next up is Infamous Second Son. Now this is another exclusive for the PlayStation consoles. In my opinion, this is the best one on the PS4. It's one of the earlier ones, but still holds up really well today. So if you haven't played any of the Infamous games, there's 2 on the PS3 as well, which I would definitely recommend getting. They basically third-person action hack and slash mixed with like third-person shooter mechanics with your abilities, and you basically play it up as they're called bioterrorists or conduits, is what the game calls them, and you're basically a person that has supernatural abilities that are caused by, in the case of this game, by touching other conduits, and he like generates powers from them and takes their powers type thing. So in this one you play as, I think his name is Delvin, if I'm not mistaken, and you play through, it kind of starts off like a rebel character, And the main thing with Infamous is your story choices. So there's very clear-cut decision making of you either go the good route or the evil route, and it always gives you a good and evil option. So basically, you want to go either full good or full evil for your playthroughs. If you want to get like the max experience out of it, play through it twice, go through once on evil, once on good, and the missions and how the missions are done and the cutscene options are completely different based off of if you go good and evil, and you also start to look and like your character feels different based off the choices that you make. So the main thing that carries this game is the combat. The combat is very smooth. There's a lot of dodging mechanics, a lot of high action mechanics, there's a lot of jumping around, jetting around. There's a bunch of different ability options, so eventually you'll gain like access to like neon video, smoke, concrete, and some other ones. And they all play different, so they all have different teleporting abilities, they all have different shooting mechanics, they all have different special like rocket abilities, and some are effective against some enemies, some aren't. And you learn to like upgrade that and like specify your character how you want it to. So this is definitely a game I would recommend. Alright, so now we're getting into my top 3 for the PS4, and the first game up is South Park: The Fractured Butthole. So this is a, I guess, sequel, because it kind of ties into the first game, which was The Stick of Truth, and that was on the PS3 and Xbox 360. These games are amazing if you like the South Park series. I'm a big South Park fan. If you don't know anything about South Park's a very crude, dark comedy show that's usually on like Comedy Network or whatever. And it basically follows these kids, and they're kind of like misadventures, and they're like, it's all the same like kids and their like daily routine mixed with different like wacky stories and stuff like that. So the main thing that makes this game amazing is that it feels like you're playing an episode. They got the look and feeling and sound of the game perfect in this. The characters, some of my favorite like Randy, Cartman, and Butters, they all feel and sound exactly like they do in the show. And even the side characters that you don't get to play as in this game, but are part of like quest givers or just you see them on the street or whatever, they all sound and feel exactly like the show. So this is a game that's definitely hit or miss. It's either a really big hit or a really big miss, basing on if you like South Park and if you like crude humor at all. If you like that, I would definitely recommend picking it up for that. And besides that, if you're into, this is kind of follows a XCOM / Fire Emblem style of combat. So it's basically a grid style turn-based game. It's definitely better than the first game in my opinion, because the first one's just standard like Final Fantasy VII turn-based combat, where it's just stagnant. You hit them, stagnant, hit them, switch turns type thing, looking for criticals and combos and stuff like that. In this one, there's the movement factor and positioning, as well as also the turn-based combat. So it adds another layer to it, and I think makes the combat way more interesting in this game. So just to summarize, the main things that make this number 3 on my list is 1, my love for South Park and how much this replicates the TV show, and 2, the combat system being redefined and really improving on the previous game. Alright, so next up is Injustice 2. This is the only fighting game on the list, and I think is the best on current consoles. In my opinion, just they got the combat, story, and mechanics of this game down perfectly. To start off with the story, this is a NetherRealms game, so they made the Mortal Kombat games. So it follows the same structure as a Mortal Kombat game, where you play as chapters for each character. So for one chapter you'll play as Superman, one chapter you'll play as Batman, then you'll play as another chapter as Green Lantern. But in this game they actually allow you to make choices that affect like which side you're on or who you get to play as type thing. So there's definitely a replayability factor in this. The main things that make this game amazing to me and way better than any other fighter out on the market right now is 1, there's a item system in the game. It's kind of like a RPG style random generated item system. So basically you complete these quests and like worlds almost that have you like fight a specific fighters in a certain order, or fight a tower with certain specifications, so like low gravity or shields or random health or minus upgrades and stuff like that. And those will end up earning you like in-game loot boxes or just items on themselves. And there's like shaders, there's items which are separated into head, shoulders, chest, and legs. So there's a lot of customization options, and they all have like sets, and the items all look really cool, the shaders look really cool, and the customization is definitely a big part of this game. The main point of any fighting game is to get the combat right, and I think in this game they definitely nail the combat. This plays exactly like Mortal Kombat, but takes out two things that I didn't like in Mortal Kombat and I don't like in Mortal Kombat. Is one, they replaced the blocking button with just backing up and registering low, high, or aerial attacks, which I think is the way, because I'm a BlazBlue player when it comes to fighting games, that's my main game, so it plays more like a BlazBlue style defense system and stuff like that. And also they added like a wall bounce mechanic, so your X button, which is like your heavy attack, when pushed back or forward, bounces the character up. So this game focuses a lot on juggle combos. If you know what that is, basically just hitting the person up in the air, then keeping them up in the air with a combo to do damage. So I really like how it is implemented in this game, and every character feels like they have a way to start juggle combos pretty easily, and all the characters feel really different. That's another thing for me in fighting games, and why I'm a big BlazBlue fan, is all the characters in these games feel really different from each other, and a lot of, from the first game of Injustice, a lot of the combat and combos are the same, so if you main somebody in the original Injustice, you could come over with their combos in this. They're slightly adjusted for some characters. Some characters got revamped, but for the majority they're pretty similar. Alright, to summarize, this game gets on my second spot for how good the story is, the combat, and the customization items, which I think sets it apart from any other fighting game on the market currently. Alright, so last but definitely not least, number one spot goes to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is my favorite game on the console for a multitude of reasons. First off, overall, it's the only game on the console to truly blow me away when I was playing it. Some other ones that were close for like Wolfenstein when I first played it, Doom, or the South Park game, but I was kind of knew what I was expecting going into this one. This one was my first take on the Witcher series. I've never played any of the previous ones, which were on the 360 and PS3, and I think they're on the PC as well. So I went into this blind, and I definitely was not disappointed. So the first thing that sticks out in this game is the story. So you play as Geralt of Rivia. He's a witcher, so he's basically a monster hunter for hire. So a lot of the side missions in the game involve you going around hunting monsters and collecting like bounties for them. And they all have like their unique side stories of like where the monster come, why is it here, what it has to do with the victim, and like how you defeat it. It's you track it, you find out where it lives, you find its weaknesses, you exploit its weaknesses, and then you hunt the monster type thing. So it's all very interesting, and it adds a layer to the game that a lot of RPGs don't have. There's also the overarching main story, which is basically there's this wild hunt. It's basically like kind of like a Game of Thrones style like ice like legion type thing, and they're like hunting you down. And one of the other main characters in the game, and you try to stop them type thing. There's a lot of side characters which are all very interesting. There's witches, sorceresses, there's your kind of apprentice, for lack of a better word, that's Ciri, and there's a lot of like kings, and there's a lot of quests to do with all these different side characters, and you get to know and you get to love or hate all the side characters in the game. And they're all very unique, and they don't feel plain like in a lot of RPGs do, where like your quest characters or side mission characters are all kind of plain generic takes on that style of character. In this game, they all feel unique and have all their very distinct personalities, which makes this game a step above the rest, in my opinion. So next is the combat. So the combat's a third-person hack and slash style of game with some magic elements to it. So basically, the hack and slash combat is just standard: roll out of the way, swing a couple times, roll out of the way, swing a couple times. The main thing that makes it different from other games is the signs, or like they're kind of like the magic abilities in this. So there's like a shield. There's like an aura, like a damage aura. I think there's flames as well, and they all have weaknesses and effects on certain monsters. So certain monsters are weak to certain abilities, so you have to like learn to use them and switch them on the fly in battle to cater to what enemy you're fighting, type thing. So the combat very well suits the game, and it's not the main thing that drives this game above other RPGs. It's definitely the story and the side missions. So the side missions in this game, there's tons to do. There's a card game called Gwent, which is now a standalone game, I'm pretty sure. It's the first game that I actually got into the side like betting game, because you like collect all the cards, you gain a more powerful deck. All the cards have relations to characters you meet throughout the game, and the card game's actually really fun. The closest I got to getting into a game like this was Caravan from like the Knights of the Old Republic games. There's also horse racing. There's like fist fighting and stuff like that, and they all have their, unlike other games where like you would get the money for completing it. They all have their actual storylines with it. So there's all mini storylines with all this. Like there's a Gwent tournament that has some storyline to it. There's a fighting tournament which ends up with having a storyline element to it. So like all of the things have a storyline to it with interesting characters, which is why I think the story in this game is really what carries this game. Alright, so that wraps up my PS4 top 10 list. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't noticed in the back, I got my computer set up all good to go. So I'm actually streaming on Twitch when I'm not making YouTube videos now. And it doesn't mean I'm going to stop making YouTube videos. It just means I also stream on Twitch because I play Dead by Daylight a lot on the PC anyways. So I figured might as well stream it. So if any of you guys want to follow me and catch me live and play games with me, I'll be on Twitch TV. It's still Colton Nerdy Core, so it's the same thing. I'll have a link to it in the description at the bottom. Thanks for watching, and just remember, everybody has some nerdiness,